Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. You're listening to the longest running superhero role playing game on Earth. I'm your host, the Game Master, and today we're talking about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. But before we get into it, smash that like button, make sure you're subscribed, ring the bell for notifications, and leave us a comment. We've got an awesome community here, and it's all thanks to you guys. Thank you so much for being here. With all that said, let's dive in. The prologue to this one takes place in New York City in May of 1984, when Michelangelo, played by my daughter, enters the turtle's sewer lair carrying boxes of pizza. Raphael, played by my brother in law, Scott, is hitting a punching bag, working on boxing techniques. Leonardo, played by my son, is with Master Splinter. The two of them are meditating. Donatello, played by my wife, is using a soldering iron on a gadget that he's been working on. Donnie looks up from his work and says, "Hey, pizza's here." So everyone heads over to the dining area. Michelangelo serves Splinter first, saying that his has extra cheese, which is exactly what the elderly rat has been craving. Mikey gives Leonardo and Donatello their favorite pizzas too, and the pineapple pizza is for Mikey. Raph says pineapple doesn't belong on pizza. Mikey says don't knock it till you've tried it. The turtles bicker for what seems like an eternity, and even Master Splinter's patience is tested. So he lets out a long sigh, then corrects his sons and tries to keep the peace. At one point, Raphael trolls Leonardo, who in turn pushes Raph's buttons, and the two of them fight. After they're all done eating, Splinter tells the turtles that the time has finally come for him to tell them about the mission he has trained them for these past 15 years. Splinter tells them a story that begins in 1964. He tells the turtles the tale of Hamato Yoshi and Aruku Saki, and how they both loved a woman named Tang Shen. They both tried to win her heart, but she only loved Hamato Yoshi. Saki and Yoshi fought, and in the end, Saki became the leader of the Foot Ninja Clan, while Hamato Yoshi fled to New York City, where he became a homeless man, taking shelter in the sewers. Then one day, everything changed. While searching in a trash can for his next meal, Hamato Yoshi witnessed a near accident. An old blind man crossing the street was almost run down by a large truck. But at the last moment, a young man leaped into the street, knocking the blind man out of the truck's path. As the truck screeched to a jarring stop, a metal canister bounced out of the back of the truck and struck the young man. The canister then bounced and struck and smashed a young boy's glass bowl, which held several small turtles. Along with the canister, the baby turtles fell into an open manhole. Fortunately, a pile of dead leaves, an old newspaper, and other garbage broke their fall. The canister split open, releasing a glowing ooze, which covered their bodies as they crawled around in it. Hamato Yoshi followed them down and gathered them up in an old coffee can. He took them to his lair and cleaned off as much of the goo as he could, but it was a messy job, and he also wound up exposed to this strange substance. The next morning, he awoke to find the can toppled over and the turtles had doubled in size. Somehow that ooze affected their growth and it changed him as well. He was amazed at how intelligent they seemed, but even so, he was not prepared for what happened next. when one of them said his name. More words followed, and shortly they were all speaking. Soon they started to stand upright and copy his motions. So he began training them and teaching them all that he knew. He taught them to use weapons and empty handed fighting, the art of stealth, and the ethics of the warrior code. Using a battered copy of a book of Renaissance art that he found in a storm drain, Splinter chose names for each of them: Leonardo, Michelangelo, Donatello, and Raphael. Splinter continues, saying, "Now, my sons, I am old, and there is a task I would have you perform before I leave this world. I must ask you to do that which no being should ask of another. I ask you to seek out, challenge, and kill the murderer, Aruku Saki, the Shredder." The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles accept the mission and head topside, which brings us to the main plot of today's game session. The turtles come out of a manhole cover in an alley under cover of darkness, and then they climb a fire escape and get onto a rooftop. From there, they flip and jump from roof to roof, making their way across the New York skyline. Donatello fails a roll and falls. Michelangelo grabs him and jumps off the walls between two buildings, making his way back up. Leonardo holds out his hand and helps them back up onto the roof. The other turtles give Donatello a hard time, tell him he needs to spend less time playing Atari and more time training. Then they make their way to where a trendy nightclub is. It's called Dancetron, and it stands where Studio 54 used to be. The turtles see some celebrities waiting to get into the club, so they go down into the adjoining alley where they talk about how they could meet someone famous. Raphael, for instance, wants to meet Sylvester Stallone, but Leonardo tells Raph to get back on mission. As they bicker, a piece of paper that was stapled to a nearby telephone pole blows into the alley. The ad tells the reader that if they're too young to get into the nightclub, then the reader should come to East Warehouse on Lairdman Island. The turtles read this recruitment ad for the Foot Clan and decide to check it out. So they head to Lairdman Island, where they go to the East Warehouse and get onto its roof, where then they look down through a skylight and they see a ton of stolen arcade games as well as a skate park. They see underage kids drinking and smoking. And then things take an even darker turn when they see drugs and prostitution as well. This place tries to be what Studio 54 used to be, but for a younger demographic. A gong sounds and festivities are paused. Foot soldiers gather to watch the newest recruits bow before the Shredder and his right-hand man, Tatsu. They give the new recruits red headbands, and Michelangelo comments that this makes him want to change the color of his own headband from red to something else. As a quick aside, in 1984, all the turtles were wearing red. But I digress. So Raphael says that he thinks red headbands look cool, and Leonardo tells them to both be silent. Just then, the turtles hear the sound of someone walking up behind them. So Leonardo turns around at lightning speed, draws his katana, and slashes. He cuts into a foot soldier who was sneaking up on him. The foot soldier then tries to attack Leonardo with a knife, but it's no use. All the foot soldiers attack the turtles with switchblades, but the turtles make short work of their enemies. The turtles of 1984 are extremely lethal. The encounter is as bloody as it is brief. The turtles then talk about what to do next and wonder if there are too many foot soldiers here to take on. So they decide to fall back and report. They dump the bodies in the river, then return to the turtle lair where they tell Splinter what they saw. So Splinter writes a letter and gives it to them. He suggests they deliver it to the Shredder. When the other foot soldiers go looking for their missing members, they find that letter, which challenges the Shredder to a one-on-one fight. Shredder shows up, of course, but he cheats. He brings a dozen foot soldiers with him. The turtles kill the foot soldiers, and Shredder says they were good men, his best. Then he notices that they left their mark on the turtles, who all have cuts and are bleeding. He tells them to come at him, and Raph says, "Me first." Raph attacks Shredder, who knocks him aside. Michelangelo and Donatello attack and also get tossed aside. Shredder tells them they're too slow, calls them amateurs. Leonardo attacks and lands a hit, slashing Shredder's chest. One of the turtles throws shuriken, while another throws knives. Raphael throws his sides, and while Shredder dodges that, another turtle kicks him in the stomach. Donatello sticks his bow staff into one of Shredder's wounds, and Shredder kicks Donatello back. Leonardo attacks, running Shredder through with his katana. The turtles tell Shredder that they are not dogs without honor. Leonardo gives Shredder a katana and tells Shredder to commit seppuku. But Shredder instead pulls out a thermite grenade. Before he can activate it, though, Donatello hits him with his bow staff, knocking Shredder off the rooftop. As Shredder hits in the bottom of the alley, the grenade goes off, destroying the Shredder. Which brings us to the epilogue, which takes place in October of 1984. At the turtle lair, Splinter is watching television as Raph and Mikey spar. Donatello is soldering, and Leonardo is trying to read a book. Leo tells Raph and Mikey that he can't hear himself think. Donnie says it's no use when Raph gets like this. He says all they can do now is wait for Raph to tire himself out. Splinter turns up the television, and on TV is Baxter Stockman and his gorgeous assistant, April O'Neil, demonstrating their better mousetrap, a robot called a Mouser. Meanwhile, the Foot Clan has an expansive headquarters that they call Hudson Block. On the outside, it looks like an ordinary city block, but it has false building fronts. In reality, it's actually one huge high-tech headquarters. The Foot Clan found what was left of the Shredder, and they are very resourceful. They have a great many skills, some from the time of myths and legends, some from the era of science. And together, all things are possible. The Foot Clan fed Shredder's remains to worms. Small, blind, and useless, but they eat. And from what they eat, they adapt their own cellular structure. Others eat from the same dish and join together, taking on a completely different form. This colony becomes a different being, and this being absorbs the memories of the organism it consumed. 3 early experiments lead to the creation of 3 Shredder worm clones. One is small, with a big head, kind of like an alien gray. One is medium, but instead of hands, he has weird spiky lobster claws. And one is huge with 4 arms. But all 3 of these early experiments are failures. But the 4th one is the right size, has the right number of limbs, etc. And this one is a success. He wakes up with the Shredder's memories and personality. And more than anything, he wants to kill the turtles for what they did to him. And of course, the Shredder and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles will come to blows again, but that's a story for another day. We enjoyed this one. We hope you enjoyed hearing about it. If so, as always, smash like, make sure you're subscribed, ring the bell, and leave a comment. From all of us here at the longest running superhero role playing game on earth, we hope you have a good one, and we'll see you in the next adventure. Bye.